Not far from the Colosseum, what's probably the most famous relic of ancient Rome, spectacular centuries-old secrets of the civilization continue to come to light. In 2018, archaeologists uncovered a series of walls. As they continued to dig, they found the walls framed up what was probably a Roman luxury home dating back as far as the 2nd century BC. It's been described as an authentic treasure, and it hasn't been fully excavated yet. One thing that was this mural. It was created with glass, marble, and shells. It shows 3 ships sailing into a city on the coast, and experts say this indicates that the owner of the home had probably won a battle or two. They think this person might have served as a senator in Rome, which would help explain the wealth and importance of the location, and officials do plan to open it up to the public. Controversial deal at an international summit is our next subject on The World from A to Z. We are your non-partisan source for global events, and we're thankful to have you watching. I'm Carl Azuz. In the United Arab Emirates, a massive meeting that lasted 2 weeks has just wrapped up. It's called COP28. COP is an acronym for Conference of Parties. 28 signifies the 28th time they've met. This is an event organized by the United Nations. It attracted roughly 70,000 people this year, including world leaders, delegates, scientists, celebrities, businessmen, and women, and they represent almost 200 countries at the summit focused on climate change. When these COP events take place, the participating nations try to reach a deal on action they'll take concerning the climate. They all have to agree on a deal or else it falls through. There's no penalty if countries don't do what they say they'll do, and that's a major criticism of COP summits. The promises that countries make there aren't always kept. Participants did reach an agreement this year. For the first time, COP nations pledged to transition away from fossil fuels in the decades ahead and increase the use of renewable energy sources. Supporters of the deal say it's a landmark agreement that'll wean countries off coal, oil, and natural gas, which many scientists and governments say are harmful to the environment. Some critics wanted stronger language in the COP28 agreement that says countries will phase out fossil fuels instead of transition away from them, so they don't think the deal goes far enough. An analysis on business site Forbes.com says the vast majority of global energy still comes from fossil fuels, and the United Nations said last month that governments worldwide are actually increasing their fossil fuel production. So what remains to be seen is if this year's COP28 agreement is the beginning of the end for fossil fuel use, as supporters say, or a symbolic statement that doesn't meaningfully change anything, as critics say.
World of knowledge. Where would you find the DMZ? The Equator, Vietnam, Middle East, Korean Peninsula. DMZ stands for Demilitarized Zone, which is commonly used to describe the region that divides communist North Korea from democratic South Korea.
Every North Korean missile test, every satellite launch, every nuclear test likely costs Kim Jong-un's cash-starved country millions of dollars. Where does that money come from? How does Kim's regime evade heavy sanctions, advancing its nuclear and ballistic missile programs at breakneck speed?
We certainly believe that North Korean hacking of cryptocurrency around infrastructure around the world is a major source of revenue for the regime.
A staggering more than $3 billion in stolen crypto over the past 5 years, U.S. lawmakers say. A record $1.7 billion last year alone.
So where does that money go? Straight into North Korea's illegal nuclear program.
An underground pipeline of illicit wealth, fueling Kim's nuclear ambitions. Pumping payments into Pyongyang from places like Russia, China, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Vietnam.
Does that pose a threat to our national security?
It does, Senator.
The U.S. believes North Korea has a global shadow army, secret operatives posing as IT professionals, government officials, freelance blockchain developers, even hiring Westerners to hide their connection to Pyongyang. Blacklisted by the U.S. as modern-day digital pirates, North Korean operatives are linked to ransomware attacks, targeting online gaming, gambling, and banking industries. Even American hospitals. North Korea exploiting online vulnerabilities, using stolen money to mass-produce missiles, funding the Kim family's lavish lifestyle. Palaces, planes, yachts, and this armored Mercedes limousine carried on Kim's private train to that September summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. CNN did reach out to North Korea's office at the United Nations in New York for comment. So far, no response. The U.S. is calling for coordinated global action, including updated UN sanctions regarding cybercrime in North Korea. But these actions are made extremely difficult by the competing interests of two North Korean allies, Russia and China.
On this date in world history. Bundle up, y'all. We're headed to the South Pole today. Highly unlikely that's what Roald Amundsen said before the Norwegian explorer and his team reached that landmark, but they did make it there on December 14th, 1911, and they stayed a couple days conducting science experiments and chillin' before heading back to their base in Antarctica. On this date in 1939, the League of Nations, a predecessor to the United Nations, kicked out the Soviet Union. The USSR had attacked Finland 2 weeks before that, a move the League determined was illegal. In 2012, a South African man encountered a baby rhinoceros whose mother had been killed by poachers. He was told there was nowhere set up for orphaned rhinos, so he built one. Our next story today is at a facility dedicated to rescuing, rehabilitating, and rewilding rhinos.
Meet Pierre Bester, who is one of the first specialist rhino veterinarians in South Africa. He's been helping a rhino orphanage as they rehabilitate calves whose parents were poached.
The different scenarios where, firstly, mostly their mothers have been poached. So they, from 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 6 months, but all come here and you handle them differently, and you get them and you put them in crashes, give them a friend, and then they cope.
South Africa is home to most of the world's rhinos, 80%, but their population is evaporating quickly, no thanks to the illegal hunting and capturing of them, otherwise known as poaching. Their horns are in high demand, and they're often used in traditional medicine, selling for tens of thousands of dollars. The Rhino Orphanage cares for calves that are left behind in this process. They keep their location private so the calves can rehabilitate without the threat of more poaching. In the first year of their life, rhino mothers keep their calves at foot the whole day. They eat enough to weigh half a ton by the end of the first year. These baby rhinos need a lot of attention, and that's what the Rhino Orphanage is giving them before releasing them back into the wild.
It's a battle that we're gonna fight forever. And the thing is, if we don't do something, nobody will do something. And half of what we're doing is actually telling people about it.
And now, thanks to a new facility, these calves have more room to roam and to recover.
Reedfield, Maine is part of our world of viewers. We're shouting out the Black Bears of Maranacook Community High School. Hello to Mr. Soroy's class, and apologies if I mispronounced his name. To the Mount Rushmore state of South Dakota, Mrs. Rudebush's class is with us today from New Underwood. Let's go Tigers at New Underwood Junior High School. All right, Jeannie Mose has our last story today about a wayward chihuahua named Bean.
Bean had drivers jumping on the Staten Island Expressway.
That dog never tired.
He was so fast, it was ridiculous.
Caitlin McGinley was one of about 20 motorists who did everything from stopping and getting out to try to catch Bean to forming a blockade to protect him. Finally, Ella Wajda's husband dropped her off and she chased the chihuahua for about half a mile. They managed to corral Bean under Caitlin's vehicle. In no time, Bean was recognized in a lost dog Facebook post and reunited with his owner an hour after the chase.
Bean, when people chihuahua want to rescue you, don't chihuahua wait around for the chihuahua right moment. You chihuahua walk up to the chihuahua rescuer and spill the beans that you chihuahua wandered too far from home and need a chihuahua ride. It's the only chihuahua way to get chihuahua where you need to be. Chihuahua, wow, that was a mouthful. I'm Carl Azuz. Thank you for chihuahua watching the world from A to Z. You mean the world to me.